Well, hello, everybody. It is the Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest, the special Valentine's Day
Yes,
edition.
yes, yes, yes. It
And
is.
I'm hanging here with one of my favorite gals, Lana Quest. It's, I've heard, because we switched the show from yesterday to
that is
today.
not Tuesday, is it? Okay. Yeah.
And the reason why we had to do that is there's some weather issues going on up in Boston, where the Boston area, I should say, where Lana's at. So there were some concerns there. So we moved it to tonight. And it's my understanding that a lot of people that had Valentine's Day plans heard that we moved the show to Wednesday. They canceled them.
And they're right here.
And they're right here with us.
Thanks, everyone. I wore red.
Yes. And I wore my Cheers Boston shirt to support the weather up there for Lana. And I don't know.
Rhode Island got a lot of snow. It went really.
Yeah, the whole Northeast.
It kind of went over where I am, dropped a little bit, and then just kept going to Rhode Island and down the Cape.
Yeah.
I'm south. I'm on the South Shore too. So Rhode Island is not really that far from where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was, as I was talking to Lana before the show, she said it was bad, but not as bad as they anticipated, which is always good. I was telling her.
Bad. It may be bad, your standards. It wasn't.
Any cold weather is bad by my. If it's 60 degrees here, I'm not going to work.
Yes, snow is just like, what is that coming out of the sky? What, New Englanders, we're like,
nope.
What? 5 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches? We're like, what is this? Is nothing.
Yeah, they're telling the school's closed. What are you kidding me?
What is this?
We get that here with hurricanes too, and all the time it's everybody. I mean, there's literal fist fights in parking lots of gas stations. People are losing their minds, and
supplies.
Yeah, I mean, they want to fill up their gas tank. They want to make sure they have enough. All this stuff, and people are getting angry at each other, and the lines are, just down the street trying to get gas. And then the next day, the supposed hurricane comes through, and it was about 12-mile-per-hour winds with slight rain, and that was
right.
It. So
yeah, but you have to prepare for the worst.
There's no question. And I hear people all the time, they get mad. They're like, all that for nothing. And I'm just like, well, it could have been something. So maybe you did whatever you had to do in your best interest.
Exactly. Because if it moves, some miles or whatever, left or right, or however they do the weather forecasting, it makes a big difference.
There's no question. Where I live, we're very landlocked, so it's difficult for a hurricane to get its full strength in the north central Florida part. But anyway, let's get. Lana and I were talking about before the show. There's so many things that happen, things that we could have talked about, because our show's on Tuesday. So Wednesday happens, Thursday happens, and there's huge news that happens, and you can actually catch up on that on Lana's show, on the Quest show on Thursday nights. But, there's so much things that happen during the weekend, and what are we going to talk about? And you have a list of things, and then you have to scratch shit off because new shit happens. Let's start with what happened today. Lana and I were talking about the Super Bowl before the show. But there was a Super Bowl parade in Kansas City. And of course, in this country, you can't celebrate anything anymore without some douchebag or douchebags destroying the event by going there and shooting it up. So just another tragic, ridiculous incident that happened with guns. Did you follow it at all today, Lana?
I did somewhat, yes.
Was there any news of what kind of gun was used or anything like that yet?
So I didn't get the press conference part. I got that end part. I just know it's 22 people injured, 1 dead from what I saw. I don't think it was assault rifles. I did hear that they think it was a beef. That kind of thing, that kind of thing related. Because you got to think, if it wasn't assault,
right,
that there would have been so many more casualties.
Yeah, is it possible there was more than one
It was.
person? Yeah.
I think they arrested 3. 3's in custody.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So,
So that makes sense, right? Yeah.
even with the beef, okay, because people like to jump to conclusions on these things too, which
Mhm.
is unfair. Sometimes it is justified, but it is unfair. I think there was theories going around that because there are a lot of crazy people who believe that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift worked for the government, that it might have been some crazy MAGA person. But, you know, eh, again, I think that was kind of even unfair to jump to that conclusion. I
Right.
don't know a lot about what happened, but what I do know happened is there was a lot of people celebrating what should have been a fun event for everybody. And next thing you know, at least one person's dead and at least 22 injured, I think was the number.
Yeah.
So of course that wasn't fun. Um, but you talked about press conferences. There was an officer who gave a press conference today that I want to play a clip of, and she alludes to something that I think that we all have the same idea about. Let's take a listen to this officer. I wish I knew her name, but this is what she had to say.
I'm angry at what happened today. The people who came to this celebration should expect a safe environment. We had over 800 law enforcement officers, Kansas City and other agencies, at the location to keep everyone safe. Because of bad actors, which were very few, this tragedy occurred, even in the presence of uniformed law enforcement officers, who again ran towards them and took them into custody. To the people who were injured in this tragedy, our hearts go out to you and your families.
Yeah, I think obviously what she was trying to say there is the notion that if you're a good guy with a gun, they're going to stop these tragedies. But there was how many officers did she said?
600? Did she say?
Yeah, quite a few officers there, and it looked like it was a guy that did not even have one of those AR-15 style guns, and at least 23 people have a bullet in them now, and one of them is dead.
Right. Right. Well, 22 injured, right? So we don't know if it's 22 that were shot or it could be injured from the trampling, because I would imagine like people got injured trying to get out of
That's
it.
a good point. That's actually, I'm glad you said that, because that's absolutely right. So you're right. I don't know how many were shot, but I know one is dead, and I know that who knows how many more were shot.
Right.
But I think her point is valid, that you have over 600 officers, and I would imagine that if it was an AR-15 or one of those style guns, that we probably would have seen more casualties, regardless of how many good guys with guns were at the scene.
Right. It's really sad because, it's the guns, right? Whether it's gang violence, whether it's domestic, whether it's a crazy person with an assault rifle, like whatever the case is, it's the guns, it's the access to the guns.
Right.
And Missouri has all the access you can want. There are just no rules in Missouri. They're just, have you read that? There's just none. Anyone can get an assault rifle. There's no waiting time. You don't need a permit. You can have a loaded concealed gun. They just had a vote last year to voting on banning children from carrying guns in public. And it went down because 109 Republicans voted against the ban.
I mean,
109 to 39 or the 32. So 14-year-olds, so police, they were just asking the lawmakers, please, there's 14-year-olds walking around with assault rifles because they can.
Yeah, I don't think I am stating anything over the top here. I truly believe that there is this idea with guns and the Republicans that it is something that they're eventually going to need to use in some sort of civil war against the government or against Democrats or get something like that. I think that's partially why they are so intent.
The voters, you mean?
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's why they're so, and even in the places like the NRA and people like Donald Trump, because Donald Trump wants people to be locked and loaded for when something goes down that's not in his favor. He has he's made it clear. We've already seen that he has no problem, calling on the dogs to come out and do whatever it is that he wants them to do, whether they'll do it or not in the amount of people that he thinks is going to do it. I don't think that, but I also do believe that there is something about these guns that it's just beyond, I need one for my home to protect my family. I need it for hunting. I really do believe it's this militia idea that they actually think is going to come to fruition, and they're going to be ready and prepared for it.
And no one said that they can't. They can do
Correct.
all the lock and loaded that they want. People just want sensible gun laws. Like we don't want 14-year-olds walking around with assault rifles. We want background checks and maybe a waiting period. Like, what's wrong with that? Do you need it right now?
Well, there also was an assault, or there was a ban on assault weapons at one point, and there was a lot less murders in this type of way. So I mean, you're right. There's all people are asking for, and it was 80% of the country asking for sensible gun laws, and that isn't just Democrats. It's not just independents. There are actually Republicans who think the same thing, because Republican children, Democratic children, independent children, they're all at risk, because right now the number one cause of death for children in the United States is firearms.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And Lana said it last week, that when you had the young white children getting shot up and nothing was done then, why is anything going to be done now?
Right, because I did hear different discussions today on what happened in Kansas City, and they were like, well, maybe, just maybe, because sports is attached to this, the football and parade. It's just like, they don't care.
Yeah.
Concerts, movies,
churches, grocery stores, malls.
Right. A sporting event?
Yeah.
A parade? One happened at a parade last summer, right? Or a couple of summers ago. I recall that. Yeah. They don't care. It doesn't matter. They're on vacation.
Yeah.
They're on vacation.
Well, that kind of leads to their argument too, though. Their argument is, if you're crazy, you're going to find a way to do it anyway, which is in a sense true. But if you're telling me that we're going to do absolutely nothing about it based on that argument, to me, that is absolutely ridiculous. I don't think there is one thing, if people are serious about gun laws and trying to reduce these kind of crimes, if you're really serious about it, there's not one thing that should be off the table. Not one. You can sit there and you can put everything together, put it in a barrel, and try to negotiate on what you think is the best way. But there should not be one fucking thing off the table when it comes to guns in this country. There are more guns than there are people.
Right. If you really wanted to solve it, you would never say it would happen anyway. It doesn't matter. It would happen anyway. That's what people say when they don't want to solve things. Kind of like the border.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they say.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Who says that? Like, oh, well, they'll find a way. So if they're going to find a way, would you just rather just put all the assault rifles on the table for them to get? Or do you want to hide them and bury them? Like, how make it tougher for them to find? Like,
well, the classic argument back against that is obvious. Like, rapists are going to find a way, but there are still laws against rape.
Right.
There are still laws against, so it's a stupid argument. But even dumber, this was Donald Trump just last week before this shooting. And of course, after many shootings, And in fact, the worst mass shooting in the history of this country fell while he was president, when it happened back in Las Vegas. I'm not saying it was Donald Trump's fault necessarily, but this was Donald Trump last week bragging basically about that nobody's touching guns, and I made sure that nobody did.
During my 4 years, nothing happened, and there was great pressure on me having to do with guns. We did nothing. We didn't yield. And once you yield a little bit, that's just the beginning. That's the avalanche begins.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't yield. And I'm not really sure what he's bragging about. I don't know what the accomplishment there was, but he felt it necessary to tell a group of people there that I said earlier that he wants their houses locked and loaded with all their assault weapons, just in case we need to go to this fictional war that they have in their mind that's going to happen if he goes to jail or he loses the presidency.
Right. Yeah.
So, but anyway, we were talking about the Super Bowl. We were talking about, of course, everybody's talking about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and what it was like a storybook ending. The only thing missing is that Travis Kelce did not catch the game-winning touchdown in overtime.
Right.
Had he done that, right, I might have started thinking that there was something up here and that maybe Joe Biden, maybe something is going on here, because that is just way too scripted because it was unbelievable. But damn it, I just lost this fucking article, Lana. Give me 1 second.
No, go right ahead. I'm playing with the banner.
Because you got to hear this newest poll. I'm finding it. So give us a second here. I know we're live, but
it's okay.
You forgive me, right?
Yeah.
You're hanging with me. Okay. Damn it. I just had it too. Taking my time. Anybody that needs to go grab a drink or make a sandwich, just go do that real quick, because
make it quick sandwich.
Let's see.
I'll take a look at the clips down the bottom.
Yeah. So if I can't find it, I can give you the gist. I don't have the exact numbers, but here, this gives me some of the numbers. There's a question, there were people polled, and one of the question was, do you think that a covert government effort for Taylor Swift to help Joe Biden win the presidential election actually exists or not? 18% of the respondents believe that is actually true. 18%. That sounds low. Like if you're asking, like if I were running for president and I was getting 18% of the vote, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
But 18% of people who actually believe Taylor Swift is part of some government operation. And those people vote, by the way. They absolutely vote.
Yeah, that's the scary part. Like, we know that there are people who just aren't that smart, but they vote.
I've said before, and I might be wrong because I don't have any hard statistics on this, but the batshit crazy people on the right who believe this shit 100% go to the polls and vote.
Yeah.
If you had some people on the left that believe some batshit crazy stuff, which I don't know, point some out to me. I don't know exactly what they are. But if you do, I'm not even sure they consider far left, and I'm not even sure they really vote. I think that people who believe crazy shit outside of that are not necessarily voters. I think they're either non-voters or they're far right-wing voters who believe this shit because it is fed to them constantly. And you and I have talked about this a million times. The most powerful media in this country is that batshit crazy propaganda right-wing media. And it just blows my mind how easily people believe everything that comes from this. Everything.
Yeah. Joy Reid made a great point tonight, and I was like, oh, this is obvious. It's obvious, but you really don't think about it. MAGA supporters, they don't care about policy. They don't care about anything because we see it. They don't care because Trump doesn't have any. And when we try to show them like, no, Joe Biden is like canceling some student debt. Hey, don't you want your Social Security? They don't care about any of that. She said the only thing that they care about is making Trump smile.
Yeah.
Making him happy is just, that's it to them. They don't care if he's taking their money. They just want him happy. So that's why he can do and say whatever he wants, because if it makes him happy, we're for it. So
because he's making them smile in a sad, pathetic way.
Yeah. Because him happy makes them happy.
And I don't know. I can't figure out what to say or how to react to that, because as a I don't know, I somewhat intelligent person, I can't think of any politician, that I would just die for, and just like anything that they say is, in fact, there's something I'm going to allude to a little bit later when it comes to that too. But, I think I'm an independent thinker, and I think this country would be in way better shape if we had independent thinkers rather than what some guy up on the stage. We've seen this time and time again. There are more people that are, we have, like last year, even though it's still considered low, we still have more people going to the polls and voting in the presidential election. And why is that? It's because Donald Trump has brought out a lot of people who have never even thought about talking about politics or getting into politics. So he's done it in one of two ways. He's gotten people who he speaks to that gets into the inner anger of these people, and they understand him. They don't want the C-SPAN politicians. They don't want those kind of people. They want Donald Trump, who will tell them, this is why you're angry, and I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen to you again, even though it's impossible. He can't do that.
Right.
Or he also has the people who are never into politics, but realizes how scary and dangerous this guy is, and says, oh shit, maybe I should get involved in this because I don't like what this guy is saying, and this sounds scary.
Yeah. I agree. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I
really don't. I really and truly don't. Like, I can't imagine just going to vote for a person and just not being connected through, but they're connected through like racism and bigotry too. Like, they love him because he's that as well. Like,
right. And that's what it is. They're connected to him for the absolute wrong reasons. There's absolutely nothing Donald Trump does for anybody that votes for him, unless you're a multimillionaire or billionaire. Outside of that, what does he do for you? What is it that,
smile?
Well, no, it's also too, is they are convinced that their life is so much better, and they made so much more money when Donald Trump was president. In fact, I'm not going to get into this too much, but I was out the other night, met this girl, started talking to her, having a good time, and then all of a sudden she brings up politics and said something about these liberal Democrats. I'm like, talking to the wrong guy.
Oh no! I know you're like, damn it, I was going to ask you for your number.
Listen, Lana, the nonsense coming out of this young lady's mouth or woman's mouth, whatever. It was so nutty. It was just so uninformed. And you're just like, it scares me. It's like, this is how they think. This is what their thought on politics are. And it just, I'm like, man, that machine, that media machine is as powerful as I thought.
Right. Oh, and she also said, or maybe it wasn't her, but yeah. And the other thing is sticking it to the libs. Like that's just all they stick it to themselves, thinking they're sticking it to the libs. It's just so ridiculous. It's like,
yeah, because we live in a media now where everything's an argument, everything's a controversy, everything is a debate. And when I say debate, debates used to be intelligent. Now debates are fucking dumb. It's just like, what are we talking about? This is so
I don't
stupid.
even bother. I just disrespect and throw friggin' whatever.
We have brain dead quarterbacks on some guy's show wanting to debate about Anthony Fauci and the vaccine, and I'm just like, this country is stupid. It's just really dumb.
Hey,
but,
DA, you got someone in the chat.
Oh,
DA's back.
DA in the house. In fact, I want to apologize to DA because last show I called him DA the whole time. I think the last time I called him DJ. He's not
yeah, he did.
He's DA. And I watched the show back after and I was like, damn it. I don't like making mistakes. I am sorry about that, DA, not DJ. He makes bigots feel like their bigotry is acceptable. There's no question. I mean, that's exactly what it is. And that's the internal, whether it's anger or whatever it is inside of them, it is now, I feel validated because this guy is telling me everything that they were telling me for years is wrong. He's telling me it's not wrong. So now that's why morons feel like they can go out to bars and just bring up politics out of nowhere without understanding what the other person's view is. So, my neighbor thinks math is woke. That's the other thing. I
mean, imagine, but it's true, right? Learning is woke. Get rid of these books. Get rid of those books. Burn them.
I mean, if there's any way to get to somebody less intelligent, it's to tell them that education is dumb. Yeah. I mean, it's just bizarre.
Yeah.
All right. You want to move on to good news?
Yeah.
Okay. Democrat Tom Suozzi won a special election for the U.S. House seat in New York on Tuesday, coming out on top in a politically mixed suburban district in a victory that could lift his party's hopes heading into a fiercely contested presidential election later this year. Suozzi defeated Republican Mazi Pilip, is that her name?
Yeah.
To take the seat that was left vacant by George Santos. How he won, I have absolutely no idea. He was Republican.
Large, he won that seat large.
He won by 7 points in that district.
Oh,
and Tom Suozzi flipped that and won by at least 7 points. And that, again, is just another rebuke of this whole MAGA movement and every one of these. Listen, I don't know how many more times we have to continue to discuss this. How many more times do we have to discuss that whenever there's been an election since 2016, Donald Trump somehow pulled out a victory against Hillary Clinton? Ever since then, they really have won nothing. They've lost houses. They've lost senates. They've lost the presidency. They've lost pretty much every special election. They've lost every midterm. They've lost every election on abortion. I'm talking about deep red states too. They've got blown out in these. And a lot of the people are saying the reason why Suozzi won is because of the Republican stance now on immigration. And they were like, wait a minute, I thought we were doing something about this. And now you're not. They are blaming the Republicans for this immigration. And that's not a good thing for Donald Trump and the MAGA idiots and the rest of these Republicans who still, for some reason, thinks this is going to work. And maybe it still will. I don't know. But I think at some point, Lana, you and I, DA, and all of us have to just kind of maybe sit back and go, maybe our message is getting out there and it's working.
Right. And maybe the voters aren't as dumb as we think they are.
Correct. Because we are surrounded by too many dumb voters. You're right. Go ahead.
Right. Maybe they're just paying attention because Republicans aren't expanding their base. Like, we keep forgetting about this. Not only did part of their base die with the pandemic because the fools wouldn't get the vaccine, they're not expanding their base. Like, yeah, the polls can say all they want. Oh, they're cutting into like the black men, they're cutting into like, Latinos. What, like 3, 4 here and there? Like, seriously, how many are there that it's really going to make a difference? And our problem is getting energized and getting out there to vote. But again, they said with Swazi, right? It was that early voting and it was the mail-in voting. And they knew they knew going in because of they have all that sophisticated machinery that they know who voted already, who got to vote, what they're waiting for, so they already knew that they were going to win because they had such a massive amount of early voting done already. And she would have had to, what's her name, Mozzie? Yeah. She had a lot of catching up to do. So there's no way. And you're right, that border stuff, it's going to get flipped. Biden may go to that border. Like, he absolutely may go to that border and say, see this? See how open this is?
Yeah.
And they were taking down the numbers today, Brian, and they were saying how, like, it's been the lowest border crossings in a long time. Did you hear that? Was it down like 50% or something like that?
I think there is some overstating on the border crisis. Now, I've done some research on the border, and there's absolutely no question. It's bad. It's not great. And there are significant numbers that have gone up since Joe Biden has taken president. Now, is that necessarily just because Joe Biden is president? There are some things that were changed, and you can make a case, maybe not. But there are the idea, though, that Joe Biden is just saying, and I think they take the wording, and a lot of people hear the wording and they get it mixed up. They hear the words open borders. So what Biden does is that he changes some of Donald Trump's policies, and you have the right-wing media that basically says he's getting rid of everything Donald Trump wanted to do or did do for the border, and now we're just letting everybody in. That is definitely not the case. That never has been the case. And it's just so simplistic that it's so dumb that people would think that it's just that Joe Biden understands there are rapists and drug cartels, and he just says, fuck it, I don't care, let them in.
Right. That goes back to, we just want to stick it to the libs. Like, they don't care about facts. They don't care what makes sense because it doesn't fucking make sense. Like, it never did. The Democrats want open borders. Do they? Why would they? Like, because then what you're saying doesn't make sense, because if you're also saying Mayor Adams is upset about all of, the migrants coming to his city, he can't house them. So which one is it? Does he want the borders open, or is he upset about all, like, it's not making any sense, but it never does.
Well, you just answered your own question. That's exactly right. It never makes sense. It's what they do is we talk about the messaging, and I do believe our messaging is getting out there, and it shows in every fucking election, and why people aren't starting to acknowledge that at some point. I have no idea why, but what takes over more than Democrats winning every election? What takes over is Joe Biden wants open borders, because the right-wing media, even though they definitely have more viewers, it appears as if Democrats actually have more voters. So, and that to me is way more important than your ratings on Fox News. I don't give a fuck about how many people watch. Well, in a way I do. But, when it comes down to winning elections, it appears as if the Fox viewership, the total amount of people watching, still isn't working. And I think at some point, Republicans, if they want to be a serious party again, they're going to have to revamp and somehow go back. But I think they have lost the country for quite some time. And this country's getting, as I get older, other people are getting older. First of all, the old Republican, the Reagan Republicans, they're dying. They're leaving, and then my generation, started to become more liberal, and the generation before that's more liberal, and the generation before that certainly is more liberal. So, you know, they either got to find a way or maybe make some changes.
I think it's going to take a while. Like,
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, even if when Trump is gone, it's going to take a minute. It's going to take a minute for like Marjorie Taylor Greene's district to catch up, right? Like to figure it out. Like, she hasn't done anything for you. Like, when are you going to realize this? Like, it's going to take them a minute. I think it's going to happen with them at some point, but they're going to, as always, it has to crash and burn before you can rebuild. You can't rebuild on the same foundation. You're going to get the same shit popping out of it.
You ever see those videos of like a husband playing a prank on his wife, and he would have the video set up and she's in the shower and she's washing her hair with shampoo, and he would just take more shampoo and keep putting it in her hair and putting more shampoo, and she doesn't realize that that's happening? That to me is the Republicans. Like, they keep thinking the shampoo is going to come out, but more, they're going to keep trying. They're going to keep trying and trying and trying, even though they can't figure out why it's not working. They can't figure out
because they're not smart. Like,
they're
that's
not.
just the bottom line. Is like they're just not smart. It's like
Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene are running your party. How the fuck can they be smart?
They don't know anything. They don't know what they're doing. You watch MAGA Mike Johnson gaveling in. He doesn't know what he's doing.
No.
And the people trying to tell him what to do don't know what he's doing. They don't know what they're doing. It's horrible. It's like a shit show.
Well, I mean, in fairness to Mike Johnson, God and Jesus is telling him what to do. So it sounds like he's got a higher power.
You think he's still watching his son's porn and his son is still watching his porn?
I don't want to think about that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to move on from that thought. But I want to play this clip. This guy is Simon Rosenberg. He is a Democratic strategist. He had a lot of things to say about the Republican Party, basically about what you and I were just talking about. It was interesting, a lot of the things he was saying. I might pause some of this based on some of the points he makes, because I have some things pulled up that I do want to share based on what he's saying, because, you know, I am somebody that doesn't want to take everything just at face value. If they're saying something, even if it's something I hear that it sounds like I kind of want to do some research on it. So let's listen to what Simon has to say about the Republican Party as they stand right now. And by the way, this came on the heels of Swazi winning yesterday.
Very important is that I have this view that what's happened in the last few months is that Republican talking points against Biden have all started to evaporate. They were arguing for years that we were in a recession, the economy's bad. That's not true. They were arguing inflation was too high. Well, that's no longer true. They were arguing there was a crime wave all across America. We know that murder rates and crime rates are way down, even in New York.
He was saying even in New York.
Even in New York is down 20%.
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to pull up here. In 2023, crime in America looked very different. At some point in 2022, at the end of 2022 or 2023, there was just a tipping point where violence started to fall, and it just continued to fall. This is Jeff Asher, a crime analyst and co-founder of Datalytics. The national picture shows that murder is falling. We have data from over 200 cities showing a 12.2% decline in 2023 relative to 2022. He found instances of rape, robbery, and aggravated assault were down as well. But despite that, people in this country think crime is up. And why do they think crime is up? Because that fucking right-wing propaganda machine that will tell you that if you go to California and San Francisco, that people are going to assault you. You're going to step in shit. You're going to do, I mean, you're just going to hear that you'll walk into a store and you'll just see people stealing left and right, you know, and just, And I'm not saying that that may not happen on occasion, that somebody might walk in and see that, but they make it sound like it is so rampant that the Democrats have come into office and all they want is a free-for-all for everybody who's poor. They want a free-for-all for every immigrant to come into this country and rape, murder, and give your kids fentanyl. And other than that, they just really don't give a shit about crime, and they don't give a shit about anything else.
Yeah.
Do you have something to say?
No, I was just gonna say Donald Trump didn't solve the crime.
He definitely did not, and neither is any president in the history of the country. I mean, there's ways to combat it, and you and I talked about a little earlier on how to combat some of the crime when it comes to guns, but that is one thing that Republicans have zero interest in.
Yeah.
But let's listen to some of the other things he has to say.
New York City, right, in the last year, and we also know that they argued there was somehow Joe Biden waged this war in energy, and that war in energy had risen gas prices and made inflation go up. But we know that that's not true now either. We had more oil and renewable production last year than any year in American history.
It's funny, Lana, because we can listen to a gentleman like that say that, and is that necessarily true? Well, it definitely is true that right now, oh damn it, I had this pulled up and why is it gone? But U.S. energy independence soars to highest level in over 70 years. That is from Forbes magazine telling us that. So that's another thing. You hear so many of these MAGA people who want to argue that we are not energy independent anymore like we were under Trump. It's my understanding that the only reason why we became initially energy independent under Trump was because there were not benefits, but there were reasons that had to do with COVID. I'll go back and look at that to see why that happened. But since then, it has stayed and remained the same and has done nothing but increased under Biden. So let's listen to the rest of what he has to say here.
And so all they really had left of all the big issues out there, as these others evaporated, was the border and immigration. And what we've seen is that last week, they handed us a big win and fumbled it and made a huge error in the way they managed it by showing that rather than trying to solve the problem, they actually want to keep the problem open for crazy Donald Trump in his election, thinking this is somehow going to help him. And what we learned tonight is that it isn't going to help him. That being, as Tom Suozzi said, being on the side of solving problems, putting America first, putting America really first, is going to trump the kind of chaotic, crazy politics the Republicans are pursuing right now. This was a huge loss for Donald Trump tonight, because the central issue in his mind, the one that he's going to win on, is border and immigration. And just to remind all of your viewers and listeners, in 2018, Donald Trump spent the last month of the election talking about the caravans and the invasion, and we won that election by 8.5 points, because voters believe that while these issues are important, there are things that matter more.
Yep.
The economy, healthcare, democracy, reproductive freedoms, right? It isn't that border and the immigration issues don't matter. It's that usually they are trumped by other issues that matter more. And so this was a huge disastrous event for any semblance of some kind of argument that the Republicans were going to make about if you elect them in 2024, what are they going to give you? The voters have already rejected it. And if they don't have some kind of massive reboot, which I think is impossible under Trump, I think we're looking at I'm very optimistic about what we're going to be able to do in November, because we just keep winning and they keep losing.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier, is that the Republicans may have to look at some kind of reboot. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I mean, by no means is it a done deal that Joe Biden's going to win. I truly believe he is going to, and I don't think I think by the time we get to November, Donald Trump goes through all his legal issues, I think it's going to be even bigger than it was last November, but that doesn't mean that we relax. It doesn't mean that anything's said, but he's exactly right. They have nothing else to run on, so they're going to make it look like the border is the biggest issue that we have ever seen, and that everything needs to be dropped until the border is taken care of. Now, of course, they had taken care of it, And Mike Johnson and the House Republicans basically said there's no chance it's happening. And then they wanted the funding for I hear a lot of people getting mad about the funding for Ukraine. So they try to do a separate bill for that. Mike Johnson says no, because it doesn't have anything to do with the border. And you're just like, this is in fucking sane.
Yeah.
Insane.
What are you talking about? It's just, but he's right. You know, people see this, and I'm starting to figure it out. Like, maybe closer to elections, people start to pay attention or start to do their Googling, start to figure out, like, what the hell is going on? Because at this point, most people who thought the border was important know that there's a border deal. Like, they know. So either you're going to lie to yourself and be like, well, the border bill is going to make it worse, or you're the one who voted for, what's his name? Swazi?
Swazi.
Right. Yeah. You're the one who voted for Swazi because you know better. You know that. When did politics become just, you know, me? When Trump was introduced? Because, well, actually, that's not true, because they would not work with Obama.
Right.
So it seems like it started around that time.
Yeah.
But there was a time when these people got together and did bills. Like, what is this?
It was. And you're right. There was, I mean, I think politics in the country has always been somewhat contentious, but there was a respect. There was also, you know, what is best for the American people. And then we got to a point where it was what is best for our ratings is what it came down to. And what took over politics weren't the politicians. It were the millionaires and billionaires and corporate media outlets that has taken over politics in this country now. And that's why we elect people like Donald Trump, who has absolutely no business. He had no business running his own companies. Forget about the United States of America.
He still hasn't learned. He's out here talking about NATO has to pay dues.
We're going to get into that. Yeah.
How are you president for 4 years and you're talking about dues? What is that? A union?
Yeah, that's we'll get into that in just a second. But no. I'm glad you brought it up, because it is something to definitely talk about. And by the way, Lana Quest, you never need to apologize on this show. You kidding me?
That's right, 'cause I'm the boss.
Boss applesauce. Damn right. And she is. Trust me, she is.
I mean, what other job can you just come and bring yourself? You see, you hear him rattling paper. He's like reading stuff. He's like Googling. He's sharing screens. He's got the clips. I'm just like, yeah.
Showing up. It's like, you know what? She'll get up. She might say, I'll be right back while you do your stupid thing.
While you're looking that up, I'll be back.
A DA makes a very good point that Donald Trump can't even spell NATO. And you know what? I
agree.
DA says that, and it is funny, but is it? Because I would love to see him try. I'd like to see somebody ask him to do that.
Yeah. Put on this cognitive exam.
All right. Well, from one cognitive discussion to another, there's been a lot of news this last week over Joe Biden and his age and his ability to run the country for the next 4 years. I want to say, I mean, is it legitimate? Sure. Is some of it, maybe a lot of it, really bogus? Yeah. Is a lot of it that's coming from people that I didn't expect annoying? 100%. But let's start real quick. There was a report last week after Joe Biden, for some reason, took home some classified documents. Mm-hmm. There was a big investigation. There was a special counsel that was appointed to that case. His name was Robert Hur, and Robert Hur was somebody that has been appointed by Donald Trump. And he did his report. And unlike most special counsels who just write the report as to whether or not they were guilty or not guilty. He decided to inject some of his own opinions or some of the things in the report that made huge news. And part of that is that Joe Biden had a hard time remembering the year his son died. And that basically made it sound like the reason why we can't prosecute him is because Joe Biden will present himself as an old man who just can't remember things, a likable old man, whatever he said, that can't remember things. And of course, the press and the media picked that up and bombed him all week, saying, see, we told you this guy can't be president. Lana, fair? Not fair?
It's stupid. I mean, right. But we knew that this was going to happen. One, we know that Her is a Trump god. Mm-hmm. We also know that Her had nothing on Biden. So that's the big picture. There was, as Cruz would say, a nothing burger. Yeah. There was nothing there. But he had to give Trump and the Republicans something that they could like hang their hats on. So he gave them that so they can continue with that stupid narrative, because that stuff does not go in that kind of report. That's the background information. It's almost like when we do depositions, right? And then we like file a motion for summary judgment to the judge. The things that will use like the substance and the facts from the depo, but you're not going to say, yeah, the deponent was picking their nose the whole time I spoke with them. Right. You're not putting that in there. Like, that's just for the background. That's for us to get an idea of who this character is. So of course not. And Her, that's ridiculous. And he didn't get any older or any younger. Like, what is happening? He's just freaking old until his next birthday, and then he's going to be a year older. I don't understand what the conversation is. He doesn't have to lift weights. Like, what? He's not doing anything physical. He's not doing construction.
That is exactly right. He is not competing for the fucking Olympics, like you said. He is the president of the United States, and as we've talked about this on numerous occasions, one of the most productive presidents, maybe the most productive president of my lifetime in just 3 years. Right. The things that have been passed during his presidency, let's say you disagree with all of them and you hate all of them. Right. It doesn't matter. Right. Presidents don't get this kind of stuff passed. Right. This amount of stuff passed in this short amount of time. It just doesn't happen.
Right. And let's be realistic and be real. We understand Biden is old and Biden is going to forget things. Mm-hmm. We all forget things.
Yeah.
He travels a lot. He does a lot. But that is why he has an administration. That's why all presidents have administrations, because there's no way in the world that you would remember all of the things and all of the presidents and all of the you can't, right? You can't. There's some basic knowledge that you have to have about every continent. Like, once they tell you, here, this is where we are, here's a president, certain things need to start coming up into your head, but you're just not going to remember that stuff. That is why you have all these people who work for you and work around. Biden is not crafting, like, he's not crafting all of this stuff. Like, you have an administration that helps you through it. The problem with Trump is, and Trump's age, he's an old ass. He also is going to have a fucked up administration with My Pillow guy and Laura Trump and the rest of these clowns.
Alina Habba.
Right. People who don't know what they're doing, on top of him not knowing what he's doing. And I always have to remind people, Joseph Biden is a whole attorney. Like, so he didn't start being some idiot dummy. He started with a degree. He's been in the Senate. He's been a vice president. He's been doing this. Trump has been a failed businessman with bankruptcies and lawsuits under his belt. That's what he comes to the table with. And that is what MAGA support.
He bankrupted 3 casinos, which I'm just telling you is nearly impossible.
But they look at him saying he can fix the economy. The person who's bankrupting and is in court right now about to lose the ability to have a business in the state of New York.
Well, if you read I know you don't, but we did a clip like that last week. And if you read the comments again, you just got to deal with people who are just going to defend anything Donald Trump does. Everything is just, he's a victim of everything. This one guy's angry. They're definitely getting that thrown out of court because there were no victims in the case. And I just said, well, I mean,
excuse me?
Well, I mean, technically, if you want to look at it, there were no victims because apparently he paid the bills back. He did everything, but he did fraud the banks. And whether or not the banks were in on it or they allowed whatever the fuck it was, that's up to them. Yeah. But you know what? A non-victimless crime doesn't mean anything. What if I got drunk and I drove all the way home and got ready to pull into my driveway and a cop was there and saw me swerving? I didn't hit anybody. Can I use the non-victim excuse that I got home? And, it doesn't work that way. When you fraud banks to make money off of it, it's just, you can't do that. I mean, you can't.
But there are victims because they have to put that cost that they lost on someone. And then it's just the ordinary person. It's just like insurance companies. I recall there was a year, I don't know, in the neighborhood or South Shore here, there were like a string of robberies just everywhere. Do you know insurance companies start raising their premiums on people? Like, I'm like, what the hell is this? You call up, they're like, it's a string of robberies. So they raise it. So we're the victims, right? You can say, who are the victims to the robbery? No, we all are, that had our premiums raised because of it.
Somebody is going to be victimized. You're right. I mean, at some point when there is fraud involved, there is a victim somewhere. So, again, it's just the blind defending of a guy that just laughs at them. But back to Biden, we talked about his age. And we already knew this was an issue, but where it's becoming an issue is not just the Republicans using it as fodder to get them to try to get people to vote for Donald Trump. It's coming a lot from people on the left now, which is really concerning me, because we could do a couple things here. We can continue to say this. I don't know if you saw it, but Jon Stewart made his return back to the Daily Show the other night, and I was so excited for it. I very rarely watch any programming as it's on. I usually record it and watch it later, but that night I knew I had to watch it as it was on because I was so excited that he was back. And basically 80% of the show was him bashing Biden's age. And I'm just like, man, it's really disappointing that it's coming from Jon Stewart. Now, listen, I want to make something clear. I'm not against anybody's opinion on Biden's age. If you were to ask me, I'm assuming if you ask Lana, and Lana can speak for herself, if you asked, are you concerned about his age? I mean, if somebody said, yeah, nobody's going to go, you're an idiot. You suck. I hate you. That's not the point. Right. The point is that Joe Biden is going up against somebody. And what disappointed me in Jon Stewart's little monologue, especially towards the end, is basically saying that no matter what happens, if Trump wins, if Biden wins, America is going to be okay. Well, there's a lot of people in this country that don't believe that that is true if Donald Trump wins. And I can't believe Jon Stewart said that. And that bothered me. So I hope he's not going down, and I'm gonna let you talk here in a second because obviously.
I'm just like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I hope he doesn't go down the same, because it's the same reason why I had to turn off Bill Maher. And it was a slow drip with Bill Maher. I loved Bill Maher. I have actually seen him live 5 different times. He was one of my favorite people to listen to. And then he became everything was anti-woke, anti-mask, anti-vaccine, everything. And I'm like, okay, I can listen to 1 or 2 shows like that. Then it became 3rd show, 4th show, 5th show, 6th show, 7th. At some point, I'm like, all right, I've heard enough. I don't need to hear this anymore. So I moved on from him. Hope I don't have to do the same with Jon Stewart. But it's really disappointing because it's an issue, sure. But let's look at the big picture here. The fact that you're spending 80% on Joe Biden's age, and we're acting and almost forgiving Donald Trump's age. We're forgiving his mental acuity. And maybe we're forgiving it because when he says it, it sounds entertaining. When Joe says it, it just sounds like he's an old man and he's losing it. But when Trump says it, it's still kind of funny. So, we can maybe listen to that and not compare it the same way we compare it to Joe Biden's age. I have no idea.
No, that's exactly what it is, because Trump is buffoonish.
Yeah.
He's always like he's doing some type of sideshow.
But why do we forgive that?
I don't know. He can't even stand straight on the lectern. He's always bent over at this point. Like, it's a mess. And like, what's disappointing about Jon Stewart is that he fought to get that burn pit bill, veterans health care expanded, and Biden signed that.
Yeah. So
like, was he too old then to fight side by side with you with this? And then, but see, this is why you can't, cape for celebrities and think they're always going to do the right thing. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's about the ratings,
which sucks. And I really hope that's not Jon Stewart's thought. And I if you're asking me, I still don't think that that's his thought, but you're right on the right track.
I would say America, whether it's Trump or Biden, America would be okay. That seems to me that you're riding the line. Like, you don't want to get the Republicans upset, the MAGAs, because you kind of want them to view you too. Like, you just don't want a show of just liberals. You want everyone. So you have to kind of be in the middle there. I don't know that. That's wild to me, because America is not going to be okay. Have you not paid attention to what this man is talking about? Do you want? Yeah, they're both old, right? Someone said this the other day. They're both old. If Biden is having a bad day as an old man, he may fall off of his bike. If Donald Trump is having a bad day as an old man, he may like go and do some type of nuclear blast and we're all dead. It's like, it's not.
We also have to take into account, if Joe Biden's bad day, like you said, is falling off the bike or maybe stumbling over his words, we're also completely just discounting that Donald Trump's worst day, maybe he might be sitting in a fucking prison. I mean, like, why are we just comparing these two? Am I losing my mind? Is there something wrong with me?
It's just because people are so visual. It's a crazy thing. Joe Biden looks like somebody's old great grandfather, and that is why you don't know what the hell Trump looks like, because Trump is orange. We don't know. We don't know. Like,
right.
He's a master of hiding all of those things. His gullet.
Yeah.
All of it. He thinks he's ready for TV. He looks a mess, but like, he does a better job of hiding that kind of
lying about his own weight.
He's sweating. Like, it's just.
And when he knows he's doing it, then he blames it on, the lighting or the heat in there. And he's like, everybody points out that when I'm sweating. But, Donald Trump has lost his fucking mind too. In fact, we talked about this. I'll go clip for clip with anybody over the last, say, 2 months, 3 months. I can pull up so many clips of Donald Trump getting confused about so many things more than Joe Biden. Now, in fairness, maybe people will say, well, Donald Trump's out there way more than Joe Biden is. So of course you're going to find more clips than Trump and Biden.
Really?
People keep saying he's hiding. I see him in a fucking press conference. As soon as that report came out, he went right out to the press and answered questions, and to me did just fine.
He's literally working. He's traveling. He's working. They just had the descendants of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Emmett Till, all of these Black descendants at the White House. He's doing shit. He's not hiding. He's actually doing some things.
I would like to also point out too that I love Jon Stewart. I think he's one of the best in the game, and I will continue to watch and listen to him. And like I said, I hope he doesn't go down this hole that like Bill Maher did and these other guys. But I do want to point out that, you see a lot of people on Twitter or whatever, and they're like, the left lost Jon Stewart. I want to make one thing clear. As what I feel as an intelligent human being, I'm not, just because Jon Stewart says something and I like him, I'm just going to go, wow, maybe Jon Stewart is right. I know what I think. I know exactly how I think and why I think it. I'm not going to change my mind because Jon Stewart is on TV saying Biden's old and maybe I should rethink my position. I know exactly what the fuck I think, and I know why the fuck I think it.
Right. Good point. Because if that was Tucker Carlson, they just don't do that kind of thing.
Yep.
Well, actually, if he talked about Trump, maybe they would cancel him because it's just about Trump.
Well, you can't find Tucker now because he's over in Russia.
Yeah, he's got a new friend.
Being a little bitch boy for Vladimir Putin. Did you? I saw one clip. I refuse to watch that. But he's also too, he's talking, and Vladimir Putin said, hey, little boy, shut the fuck up while I'm talking. I know you're like an entertainer kind of guy, but when I'm talking, just be quiet kind of thing. And Tucker just like, okay. And but
you see, Tucker was afraid. Like I'm sure he was afraid the whole time going over there because you dumb fuck. Like Putin can just hold your ass hostage, but you're not worth shit, so he didn't.
Well, the funniest part about that is why Tucker Carlson did that. Part of the reason why he did that is because he's an irrelevant little bitch boy right now. Nobody's paying attention to him. Nobody knows where to find this fucking guy. So he's got to find a way to keep his name in the news. He's not on an 8 o'clock slot on Fox News anymore. So he's got to find some way where people are still paying attention to him. And, pathetic.
See, I think it's deeper.
Well, I think it's part of it. But hey, if you got deeper thoughts, then
Yeah, it's too much of a coincidence for me that Tucker Carlson went to Russia, that Tommy Tuberville is now saying that, basically Putin is on his game. America's the one with the propaganda. What else did he say about America caused Russia to invade Ukraine, just all while there are hostages in Russia. Like Tucker Carlson is there and we have a hostage there.
Right.
That is crazy.
Actually, you're right. There is a bigger picture here, and he's part of the propaganda machine that is trying to spread throughout this country that Russia really isn't as bad as these guys are saying. I don't understand why we want to hate Russia so badly.
Right.
It's
right. And
we're in a bizarre time in this country.
Saying that you have our House Republican lawmakers saying that. And then another coincidence today with the breaking news of the national security threat, which is the Russian bill. Like that's not it's not a coincidence, right?
You're right. Yeah. Yeah, the national security threat, I think, is that Russia wants to send nuclear missiles up into space, and what I didn't read much beyond that because it actually didn't happen that much before we went on the air, or at least before when I saw it. So, but I know that's sort of the gist of it. So, based on what you're saying, is right. But we have a couple clips here that I want to play. This is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yes, AOC. I wanted to use her full name.
I know. I can't say it. I don't follow.
But she was on with Jake Tapper today. And now she is a progressive. And this is the reason why I want to play this, because progressives too are really starting to irritate me. They are what I think some people have referred to as the blue MAGA. They are, these people who just think there's a magic wand that solves everything and that this should be doing this and that should be doing that. And if not, they're just going to completely and again, a criticism's okay, but here's AOC, who is a progressive. She's as progressive as they get. This is her talking about the election. This is her talking about Biden. And the reason why I believe she is doing this even though I think she doesn't love Joe Biden, I don't think that that's her ideal candidate. I believe AOC sees the bigger picture. So let's see what she has to say.
Any concerns about his age? Do you have any concerns about whether or not he should be the nominee?
I mean, I think right now, when it comes to the president's age, folks are talking about how he's 81, but we have to look at, first of all, Donald Trump is around the same age as
77,
president.
yeah.
He's 77 years old. They could have gone to high school together. And beyond that, Donald Trump has 91 indictments. And
exactly.
I know who I'm going to choose. It's going to be one of the most successful presidents in modern American history that passed the Inflation Reduction Act, that got us the American Rescue Plan, that ensured that we could pass one of the largest federal investments in climate change in U.S. history. And as far as we go, as we know, virtually all the filing deadlines have passed. There's already been a primary. Voters have outright rejected Dean Phillips. President Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee, and hopefully he'll be reelected as president of the United States.
Are you worried about at all?
That's exactly how everybody who does believe that there is a danger of Donald Trump being president, that's how you address it. I will guarantee you, if we sat down with AOC in private and she wanted to say everything she had to say, wouldn't be that positive about Joe Biden. But first of all, she's exactly right. Why are we ignoring this man's accomplishments? Why?
Right. And talking about age, what the hell? Like, what do you want him to do already?
I just don't get it. But I do hear progressives. They are so annoying with this age things. There's a guy, you know, Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks. He's on there every day, and everybody, they're all on there. And there was another woman, I can't remember her name, Nina. No, not Nina. Shoot, I can't remember her name. But they're, you know, if Jon Stewart offended you, then I'm like, it's not about Jon Stewart offending me. I don't. Jon Stewart can say whatever he wants. Cenk Uygur can say whatever the fuck he wants. The lady I'm talking about can say whatever she wants. It's fine, but we're in a battle for democracy here. And again, the other thing, you and I have talked about this before, Donald Trump wins the presidency. Then you have the Clarence Thomases to say, fuck, I can finally get out of here and retire. And then you put somebody in 40 years younger than him. Who else is on there that could retire? Roberts could retire. You have a lot of older Republicans on there that could say, fuck it, I'm finally going to retire, and let Donald Trump put in 2 or 3 more.
Right. And that's why what Jon Stewart said is so dangerous.
Yeah.
And people thinking like that, it's so dangerous, because you brought up a good point. The Supreme Court, they could put some young cats in there. It'd be Eileen Cannon up in there. In the Supreme Court. We can't.
It could be Laura Trump. It could be, you know, who the fuck knows who we'd put in there.
We're not correct that. Do you think they're not going to do a national abortion ban? We keep saying that. We can't lose sight of that. That is, they said it. They've already announced it. They're going to try to do that.
Well, that's, I was telling you about the girl I met the other day. She's from Ohio, and we were talking, and she says, I still don't understand it. She goes, socially, I'm a Democrat, but for money and for finances, I have to vote Republican. And not to mention, Joe Biden doesn't remember anything. He doesn't remember the guy that died and mention his name. So there's no way I can vote for that.
No, that was Trump.
I know. It didn't even matter, because at some point I'm talking to a brick fucking wall. But you know, she had mentioned something about the abortion thing. She goes, well, I live in Ohio, and we already voted that you know, they're not doing an abortion ban. I said, but if there's a federal one, your stupid little law in Ohio means nothing.
Nothing.
So,
and then they would do all the little tricks that they do to take it apart, right? Like, even if it's not really a ban, a federal abortion ban, they'll like get rid of the morning after pill, or like there'll just be something, abortion pills will be gone. Like, they're going to make sure that it's difficult even for the states that it's legal in.
And that's just the beginning. I mean, you want to talk about, you want to try to have sensible gun laws, forget that. That's done. There's, you know, everything that, you know, Democrats, or really just, I forget about Democrats. even independents, the people who really want the country to thrive and be good and be decent, we rank so low in so many important categories, which is unbelievable. Child mortality, education, all these different things that we rank so low in, that American people are saying, I get it when they say, when are we going to do stuff for us, which we should, but we're spending the money in the wrong ways. And we're also putting people in the office who are care about one thing and one thing only, that millionaires and billionaires become trillionaires. And that's all they care about.
Right.
AOC had something else to say. This time she addressed Donald Trump. This sounded like a good interview. There was 2 clips. I wanted to play this one by her too as well.
Trump is elected president of the United States. We do not know if there will be a verifiable next election that has integrity. He already tried to, we saw on January 6th, he tried to overturn the results of a presidential election by force, by inciting a riot. And I think we need to be very, very realistic about the grave impacts of a Donald Trump election. It is not a joke. It is not a game.
No.
Yeah. And that's the other point of it too, is that Donald Trump is not some guy that if we vote him in, it's kind of like, all right, well, let's just see what this guy does and let's cross our fingers and hope, that things go okay. We already saw what he did. We saw what this guy will do.
I think they're forgetting. We have to remind them. They got to be forgetting what it was. There's no way. That's why sometimes I'll post a clip of people dancing in the street when he lost, because y'all forgot.
Well, it's so funny when people bring up, they're like, there's no way Joe Biden won because I didn't see any flags flying or I didn't see any hats or t-shirts. But what I did saw is that when Joe Biden won in the midst of a pandemic, there were people in the streets. And if you want to call it hypocritical, you can call it hypocritical, but forget about that. Because the point is that there were more people in the middle of a pandemic. Forget if the pandemic wasn't happening, the streets would have been packed. Imagine losing a presidency and there are people out on the streets celebrating like it was New Year's Eve. I've never seen that before.
That was the worst 4 years ever. And I can just imagine. Measles is on the rise. Imagine a Trump presidency. Polio is going to be back. Measles, all the things, because they will change the laws where you don't have to be vaccinated going into school. Stop playing.
Well, more MAGA people will be dying. So, I mean,
it's a shame.
It is a shame. Shame. I saw DA's got another comment. I'll read that after I play this clip. David Jolly, he was a Democratic strategist as well. This is how he thinks, of course, everybody's talking about Biden's age. This is how he thinks that Democrats should approach the upcoming election from this point on.
It's about competency and ideology. Because look, on competency, Donald Trump didn't tell the world to inject bleach into their veins because he's old. He did it because he's an idiot. So talk about that. Talk about the competency of the 2 candidates compared to age, because age has not limited Joe Biden. Think about it. Sure, he looks old, but has it limited his presidency? Has it limited his ability to lead? Absolutely not. Ask the critics for evidence of that.
Betsy Woodruff Swan, Harry Littman, thank you both so much.
Facts.
Lays it out. I mean, what are we doing? Like, why do I have to be so concerned about Joe Biden? Let's go back to Jon Stewart's point that everything will be okay. Okay, if that's the case, then if something happens to Joe Biden during his presidency, then I'm assuming we'll still be okay because we have a vice president that will take over. So what's the worst case scenario if Joe Biden wins and something happens to where for some bizarre reason you might want to go on your little TV shows or podcasts and celebrate that you were right the whole time? I don't know what that gets you, but what's the worst? What's the worst case that can happen? We know what the worst case could happen with Donald Trump, but with Joe Biden, something happens to him. What's the worst? What happens? What's so terrible?
Right.
I mean, do we really think that Joe Biden's going to be sitting there and Russia's going to start a war with us and he's just going to be looking around and having no idea where he's at and we're not going to know what to do and Russia's going to bomb us and we're all going to die? I mean, I don't understand what the ramifications are going to be if Joe Biden wins again. What are the ramifications? What are the problems that we're going to have?
Right. What does the old mean? Like you keep saying he's old, like you mean you're afraid he's going to die, break a leg, break a hip,
say something dumb, lose his mind, whatever the case.
Need dentures. Like, what's the problem? Lose his hair?
Here's the bottom line. I would vote for fucking Kermit the Frog over Donald Trump. In fact, I'd vote for any fucking Muppet. Whatever Muppet, Miss Piggy or Animal or Beaker. I would vote for any Muppet. I'm not even talking about the Muppet with the guy's hand in his ass. I'm talking, it could be the Muppet with nobody even controlling it, just the laying there. That's who I would vote for over Donald Trump.
That's funny. My show is called Putin's Sock Puppets, and I have puppets. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And I'd vote for that sock puppet over Donald Trump. So I don't care. Joe Biden can be in the most mental decline I've ever seen.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter to me. I'm voting for Donald Trump. Am I looking dead in the camera? I'm voting for Donald Trump, fucking period. Doesn't matter. I don't care.
You're voting for Donald Trump?
Is that what I said?
Yeah. Yeah. You're
right,
gonna have to delete
I gotta go to the edit button.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And you looked into the camera and you said, I don't care. I'm voting for Donald Trump. Fuck that.
Fuck.
I'm like, huh?
I was on a roll too, and I just destroyed that. Damn it. I'm voting for Joe Biden, period.
Exactly. You had to do it over now. So
yeah,
when you delete that one, you can.
Well, we did it. I did it live. There's nothing I can do to take it back. So here's what we can do. We can go to DA's comment here and get off my stupidity. Donald Trump spoke about raking the forest and nuking a hurricane, and they want to talk about Biden's cognitive decline. I mean, that's again, we could sit here all day and do this all day long and do this. And we can, as I said, we can go clip for clip. We can do all this shit. The fact that we're ignoring Donald Trump's cognitive decline and forget about his cognitive decline. Let's say he's perfect. Let's say he's got zero cognitive decline. I would take Joe Biden's cognitive decline over the well-speaking Donald Trump, who says everything that he said back in 2016, 17, 18, 19, whenever before his real cognitive decline started. I'm still taking Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, Reed, what is that thing that what is it called? Where the Republicans have the whole thing outlined of what they plan to
Project,
do? 25?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Y'all need to read that because, Trump's not going to remember all the things he wants to do, but it's in Project 25, everything outlined. They want to fire federal workers like that are not loyal to Republicans. So
let's make clear too, by the way, Donald Trump doesn't understand one fucking thing that's in there. That was written by somebody like Steve Bannon or that wacky Stephen Miller dude. Right. And they just kind of give Donald Trump the bullet points so he can go out there and spew it in front of a stupid audience. But yeah, I mean, it's time to take this serious. And so when I do hear the Jon Stewarts of the world and the Cenk Uygurs and everybody else that's on the left, and they want to make the point that Joe Biden is old, then just do me one favor. If this is so important to you, then on every show, every day, I want you to go out there and just demand that Joe Biden is not our nominee. Demand it every day. But if you don't, then just shut the fuck up and move on. Move on to why. Figure out who you want to vote for, and then you can say that on your shows, whether it's Joe Biden, Donald Trump, a third-party candidate. Just do that. But the Biden age thing, we get it. He's been old for a while now. We get it.
Yeah.
Tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
And it's not going to deter me from voting for him.
No.
For a second.
No.
So you alluded to a little earlier, Donald Trump thinks that NATO is like a gym membership, I guess.
Yeah. He thinks there's dues involved, and that's not how NATO works, and that's unbelievable. Again, this is somebody who's the president. He was the president.
Correct.
He should know how NATO works, but he's out here saying if they don't pay their dues, I'm gonna have Russia come in and like break their knees. It's like, what is that?
Well, we do have the clip. Let's remind everybody what this guy had to say. This guy wants to be the president of the United States. And anybody that doesn't understand, even if you kind of understand the importance of NATO and why they are, they are basically formed so people like Vladimir Putin can't take over the world.
Right.
And China. But this is what this fucking idiot had to say last week about NATO. And again, I about had it with any American defending Vladimir Putin and Russia in this country. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of it, but let's hear what he has to say.
Asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay.
Idiots clapping.
Your bills.
Okay, so there's a couple things that, of course, were 100% not true. There was no president of any country that came up to him and said, sir, I'd like to ask you about the membership dues of NATO. If we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? And I looked at him and I said, no. There's a 0% chance that happened. Zero.
-0. Stop playing. And they're just like, oh, what is that? Newsflash. That's not how NATO works.
No.
NATO takes 2% of their own GDP and they put it into making their weapons, building up their military. We're all supposed to be doing that. Putting it into ourselves, right?
Correct.
Into our own militaries, our own capabilities, so that if one of our allies gets attacked, we all have the capabilities to fight. That's just
because the United States makes more money than all of them, of course, our bill, not bill because it's not a bill, but our bill to ourselves basically is going to be higher than every other country. Now, there has been debate over the years as to, the contributions and stuff like that here and there, but it's my understanding it's never been a major point of contention. They understand, the rules of NATO. They understand why they are formed, and any normal American and any normal American politician understands the extreme importance of NATO. But now we have idiots sitting in an arena clapping at another idiot talking about NATO and their membership dues and how he looks these world leaders in the eye and tell them, you're fucked, bro. It's just so sad. So sad.
I can't. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Well, he wants to be the next president. And as we said, there's a possibility that that's going to happen. I truly don't think it's going to happen. I think once we swim through the waters and we get through all this nonsense and bullshit, and part of the reason why I think that is because Democrats have just been winning literally every election since. And I can't see that after, 17, they won elections, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and now in 2024. That's basically 8 straight years. They've won, again, as we've said, midterms, houses, senates, all that stuff, presidencies, special elections. They've won all these things. I don't understand that once we've had a streak of about 8 years now, that why 9 months from now, that all of a sudden is just going to change.
Yeah, that would be weird. It's definitely a good chance that we get the House, especially with that redistricting, redrawing of that map in New York.
Yeah. Yep. It makes that makes a big difference. Of course, like we just talked about earlier, we did pick up a House seat. So basically the Republicans have a 3 vote swing is what they have right now. So they can't afford to lose more than 3 seats. And the way everything's shaping up, and because the Republicans continue to want to run these far right MAGA candidates,
Yeah. Yeah.
The percentage of them that win are so low. But again, it's these idiots who just think if they keep, they're using a hammer, a small hammer, to try to get through a gigantic steel wall. And I think they're just convinced that at some point they're going to break through, and maybe they do, but I don't see the evidence of it.
Did you see Carrie Lake? I know it's getting late, but that clip on Carrie Lake.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. I'm like, your own people are booing at you, girl. Go
Yeah.
for this. Like,
Yeah.
they're
Even
just tired of you. Like,
yeah.
stop.
She's such a, they're all such clowns. They're not serious people. We've talked a million times. I speak for myself. I don't worship any politician. I don't need them to be working, specifically for me. Every issue isn't something that affects me, but a lot of the issues could affect a lot of the people that I know, a lot of the people that I love, and that's important to me. So I will continue to fight for the side that fights for not just somebody like me, but people like Lana, people like other people that I have in my life, other genders, other races, other ethnicities, other sexual orientations, whatever it is. They seem to be more on the side. Is everything perfect? No, but I've done my research and I feel that the other side doesn't care about any of that stuff.
Agreed.
So it's where I stand. And that's, I feel good about myself. So, and at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, is that we all feel good about ourselves. And on this Valentine's evening, I hope if you were out and you took out a special someone, I hope you had a great night. Maybe you're watching this on the replay. Hopefully you are. Anybody that came in to join us live, we always appreciate that. DA was just asking questions. Actually, he was making statements tonight, not questions.
It's funny. I don't even have any.
What do you mean?
Mine stopped at NATO. Like, I don't know. I don't have any more of his questions.
There was only one more after that.
I don't even have it.
That's the one where he said Donald Trump spoke about raking those forests and nuking hurricanes. And we appreciate him chiming in, of course, and anybody watching. We also, I encourage anybody that wants to have a civil discussion in the chat or the comment section. Feel free to have a civil conversation. My guess is that I'll get one out of every 712 out of the comments. But I'm changing my approach a little bit, Lana.
Okay.
I'm trying to answer them somewhat nicely, trying to engage in a conversation. Even the ones that come out and say, you two are fucking idiots and I hate you.
Nice.
So far, it's not working. But I talked to Lana before the show. It appears as if one of the hottest streaks in America right now is the amount of shows that Lana has done in a row on Thursday nights,
like almost
Wednesday
5.
or Thursdays.
5, 6 tomorrow.
6 in a row. The Quest show
weeks.
Cannot be. It's an election year. I mean, we need Lana. So during this election year, she will be on fire. So we expect to see her for her 6th straight show tomorrow. So join her on the Quest show tomorrow. Lana, would you like to leave us with anything before we take off?
No. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Bye.
Bye.